The first video on my channel that actually got any traction was Fear and Hunger. I went into it blind and I ended up discovering all the lore and stuff by myself, as well as finding little secrets here and there in the game. However, when I looked things up, there was definitely still people covering the game. Not many, but a good 10 or so. So when I found this game on Steam for a normal video game explain video like I do every other week, you can imagine my face when I fell down one of the largest video game rabbit holes I've ever seen. And when I looked up an explanation for said rabbit hole, no one was talking about it. Not only that, this wasn't some low production game or anything. It was seriously well made, in depth, had great music and gameplay, and was overall, in my opinion, a masterpiece. And yet, no one was talking about the game itself, its lore implications, its music, anything. Well, I cover these things relatively often, so it falls to me. And I'm happy to cover it and hopefully get the guy who made it some more attention and sales. If you haven't seen the name of the video, this game is called No Skin. And although I will try to explain it and its lore to the best of my abilities, there's a chance I might get a few things wrong, as the game has no definitive answer. It's super esoteric and confusing, and as the world's biggest Kingdom Hearts fan, I love that kind of thing. However, I believe I have the meaning of the game nailed down pretty tight. But after this video is over, I want to hear what you guys think the story means in a comment. I've even talked to the creator of the game themselves to try to get some answers, but of course, I couldn't get any. So, let's start with the basics here. No Eyes game No Skin is seemingly a normal roguelike game where you start a fresh run every time and you try to create a build to get to the end of the game by building your character and stats as you go through a bunch of trials. It's a normal roguelike, it seems. You have a percentage bar that you need to get to 100%. It's that simple. The game itself, at least on normal difficulty, is not even that hard. The game seems simple and easy. In fights, you have a simple turn-based combat game. Your enemies have a health bar, and you have the option to attack with a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, use an item, and normal stuff like that. You also have the option to pray to the goddess, which is unique to this game, and what it does is all damage that you will take on this turn will be reduced to 1 damage no matter what, making it so you can block some extreme attacks. This seems simple. You can get items from certain locations, like a hunter's knife, which will give you extra crimson shards, or money, effectively, every time you melee. You could get a pirate gun, which does a little extra damage and has a chance to crit, which, by the way, is like a jump scare every time because the crit sound is so loud. There's stereotypical consumables, such as strange pills, which heals you for 1 health, or gunpowder, which gives you an extra 2 damage for range attacks in a fight. Well, you may be asking, Pugzer, this seems very standard for a roguelike game. Why would you cover this? This doesn't seem like your line of content. What is so disturbing about this game, or what makes it a rabbit hole like you say? Well, first of all, the art style reminds me of a mix of Fear and Hunger and Undertale. It has that Undertale 2D style, but with an extremely unsettling subject like Fear and Hunger, which is creepy. But not the whole reason why I'm making this video. It also has excellent music, which is also very Fear and Hunger-esque too, with a little bit of 8-bit goodness. It's disturbing, and I will let you listen to the music several times throughout this video so you can hear what I mean. Still, not the reason I'm making the video. The reason I'm making this video is because this game is so cryptic. Even with Fear and Hunger, generally, you know what's going on if you read all the lore most of the time. Well, at the very least, you can make it understandable with item descriptions. In No Skin, it is really up to interpretation. It gives you almost nothing and makes you figure out the pieces. There are things that just don't quite fit in the game as well. Things that could imply something that makes no sense. And generally, it is hard to find any meaning at all behind the game and the story even at times. But that is what I love about it. Finding a discovery at 2 AM that blows your theories right out the door. And seemingly to be almost the first person to find a secret at times because there is almost no explanation anywhere on the internet about this game. It's exhilarating. And before watching this video, like always, I really hope you buy this game and play it yourself, because finding out these little bits of lore implications by yourself is actually something amazingly special. However, to start things off in this video, I will describe to you the first full playthrough of No Skin that you will probably have, because although it seems pretty short, but you're just touching the tip of the iceberg when you quote-unquote beat the game for the first time. So let's do that. What happens when you start up no skin? The first thing you do when you load up is the tutorial. It just shows you the basics of combat and how the game actually works. I don't believe this has actually anything to do with the story as far as I can tell, but just beat this quote-unquote pathetic dummy and complete your tutorial. After which you get the only story you get in this game that's concrete. It's just a short intro. You are named Noir. You are hanging out and drinking with your friends in one of their houses. First, you'll meet Mary. She will ask if you fell asleep. She's one of your friends. You'll say that you think you drank too much. Ruggs, another one of your friends and your only male friend, says that he actually wants to talk to you tonight. Ruggs will chastise another of your friend group named Esther for telling someone Monica about something that is never really talked about again. Then a girl named Trish in your group comes over, who is clearly drunk, and asks Esther for a kiss. So everyone at this party is drunk, pretty much. Mary will ask you to go to the kitchen to get some more drinks, as you guys are almost out. Noir, you, will say to yourself that, man, you're really drunk. The walls almost feel like they're moving, and it's almost as if she can see someone in the hallway. But there is someone. Who is this? The skinless man? He asks if you've seen his skin. You should know where it is, right? You have to give it back to him. If you don't, he'll show you how things really are. He'll say, and I quote, "You think it's a gift? But very soon you will understand." He'll then give you a knife and a gun and tell you to get going. If he sees you again without his skin, he'll kill you. You are then put into the main game, and that's all it tells you. The gist is this. After every fight or room, you will be then given the option of 3 more rooms, each with the chance of something happening in it. For example, right here, this one has a 60% chance of fighting Trish, a 20% chance of finding a hanged man, a 19% chance of just finding ammo, and a 1% chance of something special. Each room does something different. Most of the time, you'll be fighting some strange bastardization of one of your friends. Each one of your friends' fights has a gimmick. Ruggs will always use a gun and use strong attacks, but is slow and skips a lot of turns. Mary will fight with knives and do bleed damage. Trish will inflict exhaustion, an effect that lowers your damage, which is very annoying. Esther will do a mix of all of those. You can find another member of your group that wasn't in the intro named Nadine, the older sister of Mary, who is strangely absent from the intro, by the way. She, however, will always poison you, all of which are pretty easy to kill on their own. But remember, this is a roguelike game, and you are likely going to not be at full strength every fight. But don't worry, they will always come back for the next room. You're not actually killing them, apparently. Completing a room will give you a percentage of how close you are to finding the skin. You need 100% on this bar. But how did we get here? Weren't we just at a party with our friends? Well, that is the basis for one of my theories about the story in the game that we'll get into at the very end of the video. Sometimes you will encounter followers of the false god cult. What are these things? What are they? They seemingly have no faces and are all hostile. As you go on, you will encounter a myriad of strange people or things. Once in a while, one of these things that you will begin to love to see is the Crimson Dancers. These 3 dancers, named C, Ni, and Pat, are seemingly followers of the moon goddess, the thing that you also pray to reduce damage. What they do when you encounter them is they will give this current run a buff. Things such as reducing the first hit you will take by 1 damage, or giving you a shield, and this is every time you see them. It's usually a good idea to try to go to the room they are in because all the buffs they give are very good. They, however, seemingly speak nonsense before giving you your buffs. They say things like, don't trust anything they say, but they are very helpful. A lot of characters in the game seemingly say random things. Things that make no sense or have no meaning. The dancers will sometimes talk about random stuff to you before buffs, like a puddle that looks like a guitar, or a rhino, or paintings, things that don't make sense and are seemingly random. You may also encounter a long-gilled fish, which will sell you small consumables that help you out in the game. He will also seemingly spout nonsense. The last good thing you may find are the frogs. They will say that they found stuff in the trash and you can buy them. These things are generally more expensive, but are very good to have during your run. Some of them can even fully break a run by making you so overpowered. For example, a backup dagger, which will give you 2 chances to hit your opponent if your first attack misses and will give you a 75% hit static chance. Which may not seem great, but in this game, generally the stronger you make your melee weapon, the less accurate it is. So having a melee weapon that can do like 9 damage every turn that will usually miss, and then having a backup dagger that will hit 3/4 of the time is very broken. The frogs can also give you a one-time revive, which obviously can save runs. They also will eventually have one of the most important items later called a temporal rupture, but we'll talk about that later. When you get to the 30% mark of finding the skin, if you get there, you will encounter the first of 3 bosses. It can be a few different things, but the one you'll run into most of all is the Exterminating Angel, which is pretty much a normal enemy with some extra health. Beating it, or running from it, will advance you to the second stage of the run. This place is pretty much the same, with a few new faces as well as the ability to talk to your enemies. Doing so will give you bite-sized lore snippets that may help you figure out the story. Things like Esther thinks that everyone hates her for the way she dresses, and the entire group gangs up on her all the time. Ruggs will talk about cigarettes and rapping, for some reason. Trish will talk about how she knows that Noir has always been below her and is just jealous of her. Nadine will offer you a sip that will poison you, and mentions how the worst day of her life is when Mary saw the light. Whatever that means. You can also find a deer-headed man who looks like he came straight from Hotline Miami. He will heal you or give you ammo. One enemy that will be very helpful in the second area is the 2-headed Skull Horse. He is strong, but if you talk to him, he will give you hints on how to fight other enemies more effectively. Like telling you that the Crawling Fossil, an enemy in the second area, will join your party if you get it to 1 HP and then talk to it. At 60%, finding the skin, you will find another boss, which once again could be many things, but the most common one is the High Priest of the False God Cult. Talking to her, she will say that the false god has kept the world together throughout time and history itself. What makes the moon goddess the right one to pray to? Beating her, or once again running, will lead you to the third section of the run. One with great music and has my favorite fight music in the game. Here, you can listen to it. It skips like a broken record and reminds me of some of the better tracks in Fear and Hunger. In this section, you can also trade with enemies, which is weird. You can find your friends again, and they are even more distorted in this third section. They will rarely give you lore when talked to now and just seemingly spout nonsense. Nadine will just seemingly turn into a snake, where she will say that she's always been a snake. In addition to this surreal nightmare of a third area, the rooms you go into are no longer called normal room things like a kitchen or a hallway. You might find a room called the Blade, the Fingers, and the Roses, or a room called a Single Eye. Things that don't make sense to call a room. All of the other rooms are still here, just under these weird new names. At 90%, you will find your third boss. Once again, it could be many things, but the Exquisite Corpse is the most common. Fight him, win a run, and get to the next place. This one is just a line of 4 static encounters that will happen every single run. At 90%, a girl who will look similar to Noir will say some strange things to you and give you a reward for making it this far. A memory of one of your friends, which is a part of a second game mode that we will get into later. But every time you get here, she will give you another memory that you quote-unquote lost. At 92%, you will fight one of the Crimson Dancers, who will fight you and give you 5 turns to beat her 3 times in a row. It's not hard, but it's just mostly a DPS check. The second one is another one of the sisters, who will poison you forever and will pretty much give you a check for how much health you have and your health recovery. The third is the main sister, Pat, who will go twice every turn, poison you, and I believe is the only enemy with an animation, which is strange, but I might be wrong on that point. Beating her will make you use all you have learned so far, and she is not easy. Finally, when you get to 100%, you will once again encounter the Skinless Man. He will ask you if you found it. His skin. Well, for some reason, even though we filled the bar, we didn't find the skin. He will say that's disappointing. He thought the goddess saw something in us. But true to his word, the next time you see him, he will fight you to the death. Strangely though, he is not all that hard despite having probably the best music track in the game. You have to fight him 3 times. For each phase, he will once again show you how things truly are, showing you that your gun is just a toy gun, and your knife is just a teaspoon. Killing him will just have him fall over, seemingly dead. You will then get a cutscene that says, in the beginning, there was only red. One day, the red shattered into 1,000 pieces, giving birth to the original creature, Mary. But in reality, there's someone else you've forgotten, someone you chose to forget. Only by facing her can you find the skin of the Skinless Man. And to find it, you must surpass the limit. You must exceed 100%. Percentage obtained in order to find the skin: 102, 104, 148. At 148%, she is there. You will then wake up in the real world again. Damn, well, at least the nightmare's over, right? All your friends are standing over you. You passed out drunk, it seems. Noire will say that her memory is hazy. All her friends were monsters, and there was this guy in the hallway with no skin. What a weird dream, right? Everyone will then start to freak out. There's a corpse in the hallway. One without skin. They will call Nadine over, it's her house after all, and she will say, what is this doing in her house? What the fuck? Noire says she's gotta go back. She's gotta find its skin. All your friends will say, you're delirious. This is normal, considering there's a random corpse in this house. Calm down, we'll all figure it out together. Noire, or you, will disagree and walk outside. She has to talk to the Moon Goddess again. She will do so, and the Moon Goddess will strangely reply, saying, good, you've realized your mistake. She'll give you another chance. You will then get a higher difficulty, but as far as I know, the difficulty doesn't matter, and the Moon Goddess will then say, this next time, don't fail. Even though we seemingly won. And then the credits roll. What happened? That all seemed nonsensical. How do you get over 100% on the bar? Is that even possible? Well, if you have an eagle eye, you may have noticed, in addition to the crimson fragments at the top left of the screen we've been getting every fight, we've also been getting these lunar fragments as well. These are used to permanently give you new things every run. Things like give you a Crimson Dancer buff at the beginning of every run, or unlocking new bosses, but each upgrade will bring you closer to the truth with every run. So we will go down the line, as we do need every single upgrade. One at a time, what do they all do? The first one is called Let's Make a Deal. This one adds a lighter and a dummy in the shop. All the lighter does is allow Rugs, the guy with the cigarette in your group, to spare you immediately when talked to with it in your inventory. It will also let one of the bosses, called Burned Alive, to instantly be killed. And then the dummy that it gives you is just an item that goes to the top of your inventory, so when enemies try to steal your items, it will always steal the dummy, which is nothing. But these are just mostly gameplay items. The next upgrade you can get is called Absolute Red, and it is extremely important to the story. It will give you the Red Room in the first section of the game, so you can go there instead of the other rooms. It will add this room that will allow you to meet the son of the Skinless Man. who seemingly says that the red room is where everything started. He also has this red triangle on him, a symbol that I have zero clue what it means. But it shows up everywhere, and it has to mean something, but it is one of the things I can't piece together. But you will have to run from this fight, as you cannot hurt the skinless man's son. That's not the important part, though. In the same room, you have a 20% chance of meeting the translator, who gives you bonus damage to either your melee or ranged attacks at the cost of accuracy, but who cares about that? When you get to this room, on screen during this event, there is a note which seemingly is a key to some code. It's very important, and just remember this room, as we will use this key in several things later on to help the story along in later areas. The upgrade called Ribbit Ribbit just gives you the item Reload from the Frogs. It's strictly for gameplay. The Doorman is weird. He is a fightable boss that will appear up to 58%. I'm not sure what the significance of 58% is, but killing him before he runs within 4 turns will give you his keys, which will randomly change effects every battle. Some battles it will be heal 4 health, others it will add 3 damage to your ranged weapon. However, while looking at it every battle, you may notice sometimes it will have glitched text once in a while. Using the item when it has this glitched text appears will do this. This will allow you to fight the Apostle of the False God Cult, who will say that he has to get back somewhere. However, like a lot of the game, this seemingly does nothing. But it does help my final theory on the game later on, so we'll get back to this. Corruption is the next upgrade, and it is strange, as it seemingly does nearly nothing. All it does is change how each fight looks in the first area, and it gives you extra supplies every time you fight an enemy. Your friends will get progressively more gross and surreal looking, but they already sort of do that as the run goes on anyway. So I don't know what really the point of this is, other than to give you extra supplies. The Crimson Pact is probably the best permanent upgrade in the game, strictly gameplay wise. All it does is allow you to access the Crimson Dancers buff first thing every run, making things a lot easier in the earlier stages when you normally would have nothing. The Crimson Destiny upgrade seems to be fully gameplay oriented, giving you 2 different new buffs for the Crimson Dancers, one of which will make low HP enemies beg for mercy, and one of which called Gambling, so you know I love it, the world-class Balatro player that I am. And on the first use, Gambling will do nothing. But if you get another buff from the Crimson Dancers and find the Gambling buff again, you will get a huge boost to your attack and HP. It's great, if it ever works, because in my experience it rarely does. Okay, this next one is a long one, and I mean huge. It's got huge implications to the story and gameplay. The next upgrade you can get is the Weapon of Justice, and it will change the boss at the end of the first section of the game to someone named emerging from another universe. Beating this person will unlock her as a playable character that you can start any run with instead of Noir. All playable characters other than Noir have a gameplay quirk. Root, which is the name of this first extra character, has a system where if you land a final hit on any fight with your gun with the exact damage needed, you get an upgrade, allowing you to gain extra HP, extra damage for your gun, extra accuracy for your gun, or extra ammo for your gun. All great upgrades, but there is more than that. Meeting the Deer-Headed Man from Area 2 will produce strange results when playing as Root. They seem to know each other. They say that they were at a showdown when the universes got mixed up or whatever. He will say he wants to meet you again at the end of the area to continue that showdown. And he is not an easy boss. Talking to him during this fight, he will say that Root was hanging from the hanging tree from a noose, and then they both got transported to this universe. Beating him, he will say that you will never see his true face, because Root created him. If she hasn't imagined the deer-headed man's face, he doesn't have one. Then he will disappear, saying that this world will too disappear. Going on, you will be haunted by a new track, which sounds really great, and from now until the end of the progress bar, you can only choose one room with 3 variations. One that is called The World is Ending. Pretty bleak, huh? One of these variations will give you a phone call, someone saying that they want to keep in touch, and to remember the number 327. and you will meet again if you remember that number. Another room, there will be 3 robot guys called the Children of Root, and all they will say is eliminate Root. You cannot beat them, so you have to run. The last variation of this room, there will be a headless man who will cry to himself that he doesn't want to see her ever again. Make it to the end of the world and meet the final boss of Root, a woman in a wedding dress named Meadow. Another pretty tough fight, but after it's over, it will show you that red triangle again. It will say that this is the end of the world. Then 3 characters will come forward: Meadow, the deer-headed man, and that one guy without a head. They will all thank Root for creating them, and tell her to remember the number 327 again. You'll know what to do with it when the time comes. The Dream Diary for Root will then unlock, which once again we will get to that when we have all the Dream Diaries. But for now, that is Root's story. Super cryptic and makes no sense really, but it kind of plays into the theory at the end of the video. Back to the Lunar Fragment purchasables. Let's Make a Deal 2 is next. This will unlock a liquor bottle in the Fish's shop, which is a good item that will make you heal whatever damage you deal in a single battle, at the cost of constantly poisoning you. Seemingly just a gameplay item, but if you give it to Trish in stage 3 of the game, she will let you go free and give you some extra damage for all your weapons. Nice. Absolute Red 2 is just the same thing as Absolute Red 1, only you can meet the Son of Skinless in stage 2 of the game as well. Same thing with the translator and all of that. Ribbit 2 unlocks more frog items, like Deadlocked, which heals you the first time in a battle you talk to someone, and it's purely for gameplay. But it helps you because 1 health every battle you can heal for free. The Noble Peasant upgrade is the second unlockable character. This unlocks a new boss to spawn in stage 2 of the game, Abriria, a medieval queen. She isn't too hard to beat, but you unlock her story once you beat her, just like Root. Her gimmick is a little more interesting. Every time you kill an enemy with her melee weapon, the Goddess Sword, she will level up, giving you a free blessing from the goddess. However, do this 9 times and the Crimson Moon Knight will appear, a boss that you cannot hurt and you just have to survive a bunch of turns. It's not hard if you have the right items. Afterwards, she will say that it's good that the goddess chose Abriria, and he will now wait for you for the final showdown at 100%. Once you get there, you can fight him and he is laughably easy. And once you win, it will be revealed that the Crimson Moon Knight is the goddess herself. Abriria will freak out, saying that nothing can exist without the goddess. Then you will get to another boss encounter, one with a enemy called the Band. It's an easy fight, and when you win, all the audio will no longer work in the game. The next fight, you will be fighting the Artist. Once beaten, all the objects can no longer be seen in the game, and it is all text. The last fight is OBJ_controller. Killing this will just end the run with no ceremony and give you the Dream Diary for Abriria, which we will get to later. The next unlockable at the Lunar Fragment store is the Crucifix, which is a great item that heals for half your HP. Also, giving it to the Martyr of the False God Cult will recruit them to your party. Once again, pretty much just a gameplay item, but it's really good for healing. Cry for Help is an unlockable that just unlocks easy mode, which I haven't even tried because I don't believe there's anything new in this. It's just an easier mode. Ribbit 3, however, is one of the most important upgrades to get. It will give you Temporal Rupture as a purchasable item from the Frog Shop in the 3rd stage of the game, which gives you instantly 18% on the progress bar to search for the skin. Which seems nice and all, but why would it matter? Well, I'm going to leave this here for now, because there's another item at the very end of all of these that works in tandem with the Temporal Rupture that will blow the lid off the entire game. So when we get there, I will talk about Temporal Rupture as well. Black Market is a fun unlockable. Whenever you hit those 1% chance rooms, which usually are just fun little Easter eggs, once you hit one of these rooms, you will get a unique shop that you can spend your lunar fragments on items for your run. Remember, lunar fragments don't disappear when you lose a run, so you are using your permanent currency for a temporary run. But the items in this black market are all really strong. One is a scythe melee weapon that has a chance to have an enemy give up in battle after every single hit, one of which doubles the effects of all items, which is once again stupid strong. One deletes a singular turn of a status effect at the end of any battle, and stuff like that. None of them are too important story-wise though. False Awakening is a weird unlockable. It unlocks a boss battle that can appear in the 1st stage of the game only. and this boss is just called Wake Up. You have to beat it 4 times, but all of them are easy. You will then wake up from the dream. Doing so, you can talk to one of your friends, and they are normal now, and they will give you a few decent items, and you will then fall asleep again, or something like that. A mysterious girl is, in my opinion, the most cryptic thing in the game, and also my favorite unlockable because it's so creepy, and it blows the entire lid off the story. This will unlock the second to last playable character, Luna, a girl you can actually meet in the main game as anyone, and she will give you gummy bears, which are a strong little healing items that also buff attacks and deal damage. You can fight her and recruit her at the end of the third area of the game. When you play as her, the game is very cryptic and creepy. I love it. Her gimmick is that instead of having to reset the game when you lose, her axe binds you to this world, and it just makes you lose progress on the bar to find the skin, which seems broken as you can never really die. But the problem is, every time you fail, the bar gets set back more. But here's the thing, you keep everything. So figure you make it to the second stage of the game and you unlocked the talk option. You can then die and go back to the first stage of the game. There, you can talk to everyone you normally could not talk to. They will give you huge hints to gameplay mechanics, and strangely, if you talk to Ruggs in the first stage, he will give you 3 cryptic numbers: 327, 721, and 48. Seemingly useless numbers that don't even go with that translator key we got earlier. Remember these numbers though. Not only this, the creepiest part of all of this I haven't even mentioned yet. You can go into the negatives on the progress bar for the skin. Here, you will meet the real Mary, the first being, or whatever she's called. After you win, you can keep going backwards until you hit negative 999 progress, and you will get increasingly cryptic clues about the story of the game, as well as fight these angels, which get progressively more grotesque. They will say throughout their dialogue, and I quote, Angel 5 will say, "The moon has risen high in the sky once again, and no one remembers its fall. The false god is all humanity believes in now. They all live in harmony, but at a very high cost. Everybody must hide their true nature." After beating Angel 5, you can beat Angel 4, who will say, "The followers of the false god and the moon god tried to coexist for a short time, but it was all in vain. And so, slowly, things stopped appearing as they truly are." Beating Angel 4 will allow you to fight Angel 3. He will say, "Thus the false god was born. More and more people decided to adopt this belief, sacrificing everything for the sake of peaceful coexistence with other humans." Once again, beat Angel 3 to fight Angel 2, who will say, "Humanity was tired of its daily hatred it spread to other human beings, and so some individuals began to show greater tolerance towards others. They were still the same people as before, but they didn't show their true selves." And finally, after beating Angel 2, you can fight Angel 1, who will say, "Originally, the moon was not high in the sky. It had fallen where humans could observe it closely. Those were hard times, but they were free." This all sounds like nonsense. It doesn't make any sense the way it's shown to us. But remember, the first angel we fight is Angel 5, and the last one we fight is Angel 1. So let's reverse what we just read in order. Originally, the moon was not high in the sky. It had fallen where humans could observe it closely. Those were hard times, but they were free. Humanity was tired of its daily hatred it spread to other human beings, and so some individuals began to show greater tolerance towards others. They were still the same people as before, but they didn't show their true selves. Thus, the false god was born. More and more people decided to adopt this belief, sacrificing everything for the sake of peaceful coexistence with other humans. The followers of the false god and the moon god tried to coexist for a short time, but it was all in vain. And so, slowly, things stopped appearing as they truly are. The moon has risen high in the sky once again, and no one remembers its fall. The false god is all humanity believes in now. They all live in harmony, but at a very high cost. Everyone must hide their true nature. Now, that story makes a lot more sense. It seems that before this false god, whatever it is, humans were free and separate, and they hated each other. Then, some humans decided they didn't want to fight with other humans, so they disguised their hatred of others with kindness. They still hated them, but they wanted peace, so they no longer showed it. Slowly, though, more and more people decided they wanted peace, despite hating everybody. No one remembers the true freedom anymore, but everyone is at peace. The moon is now back in the sky, and everyone has an uneasy truce. They hate each other, but for the sake of peace, they disguise it. That is my interpretation for this story. But what is the false god? Well, I have a pretty concrete theory about that, and it makes sense, but I won't get into it until we get to the final act of this video. But just know that people all still hate each other, but because of this false god, no one expresses it for the sake of peace. Freedom is called for the sake of peace in this world. I want you to think about your theories here until the end of the video. What is the false god? Let's move on though. But let's get back to the game. After defeating the 5 angels, if you go into the negatives one more time, you will meet the Luna Graveyard. With a horrifying track, your character will say that something isn't right about this fight. The chance to hit this Luna Graveyard is only 1 in 100. So yes, you actually have only 1 in 100 chance to hit this enemy. You're gonna be here a while. Talking to it, it will say that these are all the previous Lunas who have failed. Once you finally hit it though, the rabbit hole opens up even deeper and gets more disturbing. You are put into this strange, poorly drawn world all in red, like a Pokemon battle. No audio plays except for, once again, another horrifying track that loops on repeat. Here you will fight 4 enemies. The first 3 are shocking. The first one, a guitar-shaped puddle. The second, a rhino carcass. The third, a blood-red painting. Wait. This is the first moment where I was like, holy fuck, what does this mean? I want you to remember the dialogue between the Crimson Dancers that usually means nothing and it's nonsensical. They talked about 3 things in these weird dialogues, and these 3 things appear several more times. So what are they? The puddle, the rhino, and the painting? I genuinely have no clue. It's one of the main reasons I'm making this video, because although I feel like my theory is completely correct at the end of this video, I don't know how these 3 things fit into it. There is an answer deep in this game somewhere that I am missing. But anyway, kill these 3 Pokemon battle-like enemies, and it will bring you to an enemy you've never heard of though. The Origin du Monde. In Latin, the origin of the world. It appears to be a weird-looking vagina-like enemy with a red triangle again in the center. A side note, the phrase L'Origine du Monde was a real French painting by a man named Gustave Courbet, which depicted the vulva of a woman. Strangely though, recently, this very real painting was defaced by someone who spray painted the priceless artwork with blood red spray paint. But in-game, this appears to be a Pokemon battle type enemy with a vagina and crosses and codes all around it. Killing it, which by the way you have to be literally perfect through this entire section and make no mistakes to do it, the Crimson Dancers will once again congratulate you, saying you did very good in this world tinged with the red. But they need your help again. You need to fight those 3 objects again that they talk about, but in the Dream Diary for the Crimson Dancers, which we will get to when we get to the Dream Diary section of this video after the rest of the permanent upgrades, which this is a large section of, I realize. There's only 2 more permanent upgrades though, so let's get to them. The first is called Miracle with a Y. It doubles the amount of items you have and randomizes them. It's pretty helpful if you have like 500 useless items in your inventory. The final upgrade is called STR_upgrade_nightmare. This is the last one and most important one. and it goes along with that one earlier called the Temporal Rupture that I mentioned. It will spawn a new enemy sometimes named the Woman with the Snake Eyes. Killing her will give you snake scales, which allows you to skip a couple percentages. You see where this is going yet? Using the snake scales and the Temporal Rupture, you can get to that fabled 148% talked about in the false ending. But that is for the finale of this video when we get there. Okay, that is all the permanent upgrades. But what about all those dream diaries we were talking about? These dream diaries are a look into each of the friend group and a couple extra people. Some of these you have to complete to get some of those previous upgrades we mentioned. So let's go through all the dream diaries. And they hold a lot of the story in it as well. All these dream diaries are usually just puzzles where you have to play literally perfectly to win. One of which took me about an hour and a half, but they usually will give some insight into the character or the main story of this game. However, they aren't always straightforward. Case in point with the first one, Nadine. This one seems to have Mary or Noir or someone curled up into a fetal position that you have to fight. You have to play the fight perfectly to win. Winning, Nadine will just say, "I killed her," over and over. What does that mean? Well, I have no idea really. For Mary's dream diary, you will be outside a door. Someone will tell you to come closer. It's cold. You have the option to either stay where you are or close the door, but no matter what happens, you will eventually get into a fight with Mary, where once again, you have to play perfectly to win. Winning, Mary will ask if you are afraid of her now. Come close and hold her tight. Certain dialogue with Mary through the main mode implies that her and Noir have some sort of extreme close friendship, or maybe even relationship, but what this means in her dream diary is pretty cryptic and unknown. Ruggs is next, and it is very interesting. It takes place over 3 levels. The first is him at the beach meeting Noir for the first time. Noir will ask Ruggs about himself. He will say, well, he likes freestyling. I didn't mention this earlier, but Ruggs reminds me heavily of Hiei from Devilman Crybaby. In looks and personality, I'm pretty sure he's based on him. Noir will ask to hear some of Ruggs' freestyles then. But he says it's kind of embarrassing and it usually involves him dissing whoever he's freestyling, so it's not a good idea. She will call him shy and tell him to come back in the evening to hang out. Coming back at sunset during the second level, Noir will tell Ruggs to take her somewhere. They get drunk and Ruggs falls in the sand. He will say that she brought him enough alcohol for 10 people, no wonder he's drunk. Noir will then disappear, with Ruggs wondering where she went. Come back at midnight for the third level and do the fight, where you have to once again play perfectly. Ruggs will say that his hands are shaking and he can only attack the enemy in front of him, which is Noir by the way, after steadying his hands for 8 straight turns. Doing so perfectly will give you a choice. One where you can either use the gun to kill yourself or kill Noir. You will then be back at the apartment after you kill yourself. Noir will enter the apartment and Ruggs will say he wrote some new raps and he wants Noir to hear them. He'll say, "I look into your eyes and see sharp pins. Tears of blood, wet boiling cheeks. I'll understand you'll never change. I think back to your naked body, to those lips I love." Which doesn't really sound like rap, but what do I know? Noir will say that she likes it, no doubt about it. Ruggs will say that he knows that she actually doesn't give a shit about him. He also knows that us reading this also doesn't give a shit. He knows that no one cares about his rhymes. He will then shoot himself in the head, and Noir will ask what he just did. Ruggs will come back and say, "I'm starting to regret the day I met you." If you choose to shoot Noir during the fight, Ruggs will just say that that wasn't the real Noir, right? Whatever this implies, it appears that at one point Noir and Ruggs dated or something and then broke up. Whatever that has to do with the main story. Next up is Esther. Esther will ask if her suspenders suck. Noir will say, of course they don't suck, they look good. And Esther will say Noir is lying. Esther will then say she wants to get to know you better, and then sort of jump scare you slightly, and she'll jump out of the frame and do this. The game will then tell you to find Esther. It will give you 10 turns to stock up on items and then fight her. One of the fights you can find is the egg room. It will just tell you to face the eggs that guard the origin of resentment. Sure, dude. Winning will give you healing items. Another room will say face the girl who dealt with her first trauma. Choosing this option, you will fight the dance girl, which looks like a young Esther. Winning this fight will give you a new room that says face the one who was crushed by the weight of judgment. This one seems to be a slightly older Esther, the title of her being devoted to the false god cult. After you beat her, you can fight the last version of Esther in a room called Fight the One Who No Longer Remembers Her Original Appearance. An Esther who looks nothing like she did originally. She's faceless and a false god cult member now, named Creeping in the Darkness. Just keep fighting these or fighting the eggs. Then you will be able to fight the real Esther at 100%. Winning, she will just say, "Good job, now you know my story. That's why you're here, isn't it? You are exactly like me. Show people how things truly are." The next dream diary is Trish, and she is the second hardest one in my opinion. It will start with her crying, telling Noir this isn't a good time. She wants to be left alone. She says earlier, some guy and her talked. Noir tries to comfort her and tells her not to let this guy ruin her day. She will say she wants to talk to him, and he's at the end of this hallway, which is like a line of 20 fights in a row. It is very hard, but you get a bottle of alcohol, which is your ranged weapon, and it is very strong. And the point of this little area of the game is to save this extremely strong bottle for the last fight, or you cannot win. You will fight strange enemies like Stiletto Heels or The Competition, Decaying Fetus, Designer Purse, Eternal Beauty, all with this very unnerving music track in the background. And the only way to do damage is either to shoot or use the bottle, which does even more damage, but it will poison you. It's quite hard, but the final boss is once again that red triangle. Once you win this little game, the game will tell you something has emerged from the Crimson Core. Trish will come out without a face and say, "Don't you understand? You will never reach the end of this hallway, because the end does not exist yet," which is cryptic. Root's Dream Diary is up next, and although it isn't hard, I hate it for reasons I will soon reveal. It will start with the deer-headed man and Meadow talking. Meadow will ask why he torments her on the happiest day of her life. The deer-headed man says that he has an axe and he'll chop off her hand. Root will say that this memory isn't hers, so why does she remember it? She will ask whose memory this is if it's not hers. This will let you wake up in a room with the place to put in a 3-digit code. There is several codes to put in this thing that we already know. However, I figured there had to be some hidden code somewhere in the game that no one had discovered yet, and it would be some profound revelation once I found it. So, I shit you not, I sat here for 2 hours trying every single number from 000 to 999. You can see I'm not lying from the screen. This literally happened, and I hated doing it. And on top of it all, I found nothing new that didn't already have a code. I wasted 2 hours for the footage you are seeing, or nothing. I love brute forcing puzzles, but usually it has some payoff. This time, it did not. Anyway, let's use the codes we know. Remember at the end of Root's story, the code 327 was mentioned several times. Use it and go through the doorway on the right where the code is entered, and it will give you another phone saying, "It's good to hear you again," but it has 3 more codes for you to write in that space in the previous room. So write them down. 066, 518, and 676. You know what to do with them. Go back and enter them in the code area. Now, take note, as the only way to complete this diary is to enter them in a specific order for it to work. Start with 676. This will bring you to a room with a fight with a mosquito-looking thing. Beat it without taking damage and get some strange pills, an item that will heal you for 1 HP. Then enter the code 066. You will fight this snake-looking guy that you will have to heal at least once to beat. otherwise he does too much damage. Win and you will get 99 Crimson Fragments. Then enter 518. Give the fragments to the Headless Man and he will give you the code 124. Here you can meet Meadow again, who will say that this is the end of the world. The man without eyes has left us to this fate. She will say Root is the first thing created in the story, so in a way, she is God. She says that she was supposed to be married though, but it doesn't matter now. The story was incomplete. Meadow will never get a happy ending. She says that there are other special numbers to try in this diary though, although technically the diary is complete and you can leave without any further entering any codes. Well, the first one that comes to mind is the ones that you can only get by using that talk option as Luna and going back percentages to Rugs. Remember a while ago we talked about Rugs saying 3 random numbers that made no sense at the time? One of them was the first number we entered anyway, 327. The next one he says was 721. Entering, you can find the deer-headed man, who will say that Root was created by the man with no eyes, and the deer-headed man was created by Root. If she doesn't know how the deer-headed man looks without the mask, who does? No one. He says it was fun fighting with Root. Okay, then let's go to 048. Here you will meet Luna, who will say that it was actually her on the phone the whole time. She says for some reason there is a significance to the number 48. It's all over the game. And it is. She says that someone is represented by this number and she is trapped in the Crimson world, which is the Crimson Dancer's dream diary, by the way, and we will get to that after this one. The other codes for Root's dream diary are 404, which is a joke about 404 not found pages on the internet. It will glitch and mess up and show random models. And 808, which has Rugs appearing to rob a store. 808 is a number you can find in the Noir dream diary, which we will get to at the end of this video. 000 is just a blank room with no music, and 999 will send you straight to the credits. All other numbers seemingly do nothing, because I checked every number. The third to last dream diary is Abreria, and it is nearly impossible. I was stuck here, for no joke, 2.5 hours. You have to get enough items and damage to fight the boss within 5 turns. It is heavily RNG based, seemingly too. So you have to know what you're doing, and have good RNG. I even messed up once when I was about to win and misclicked about halfway through all of my attempts and had to start over. In this dream diary, the Moon Goddess, which seemingly looks suspiciously like Noir, will say that you have to kill the king in 4 days. I usually won't tell you how to complete a puzzle, but because of this pissing me off so much, I will. The way I did it was on the first day, fight the rat room. Steal as much as you can from the rat, and then hope for a blessing for the nightshade in your dreams. Then go to the noble lady and kill her. Get enough shards to go to the market tomorrow and get your melee weapon upgrade and the steel upgrade that heals you. Go back to the rat on the last day to stock up on items. Then you should be able to fight the king with the nightshade you have. However, it is very, very hard. Winning, the goddess will tell you congratulations. You are now the queen and the only one capable of fighting the incoming threat. She will give you the Moon Goddess sword, the only weapon capable of killing God. The next dream diary we haven't gone over is Noir's, but it is really important to the story and it will lead into the finale of the game, so we will leave it for last. The Crimson Dancer diary is up next. They will tell you you need to kill 3 Crimson monsters again in the Crimson world for the most important reward of everything: information. You'll be transported to a Pokemon-looking game. Here you can find enemies like wolves, clawing hands, no sleep, and men without faces. In addition to, once again, the puddle that looks like a guitar, the rhino carcass, and the painting. There's also a special ending here as well as the final unlockable character. First things first is the puddle. The information you are given from this is that the wolves are smart in this world. You should talk to them. As well as there is 6 different items in this world, and they are sure that this information will eventually help you. That's weird, but yeah, the wolves give hints on how to fight all the enemies, as well as something suspicious that we will talk about in a second. Killing the rhino carcass, the Crimson Dancers will give you a hint about how to end the game and find the skin in the real version of the game, which is what we are really after. They will tell you what I mentioned earlier. Use the temporal rupture at the frog store as well as the snake scales from the snake girl to break the limit. But they warn you that the man without eyes will be waiting to stop you once you break the limit of the game. The next one is the blood painting, which you cannot hurt and can only run from. I figured this one out myself and I felt pretty smart about it. If you talk to it, he will say he wants everything you have. Using any amount of items does nothing. But if you have every possible item in the world, it will end the battle and you will win. You will need 6 different items like the Crimson Dancer says. You will need strange pills, which you can find on the floor, a med kit, which you can find after fighting the sleepless guy, cigarettes, which are dropped from the sleepless guys, gummy bears, which are past the no-faced men, a claw, which is found by fighting the rake hands, and finally, nightshades, which are found by the dogs near the beginning. Beating this boss, quote-unquote, the Crimson Dancers will say that you should talk and trade with people after going back percentages, which thanks, we already knew about that, and we kinda needed to know that to get here. There is 2 more pieces of information in this world though. One is found through a hint that the wolves will tell you. They will say that all enemies in this world have a secret. Fight enough of them and you will find it. Well, like they say, there is a very small chance, I believe it's like 1% or so, that any enemy that you fight will be glitched. It will be this picture right here and it's glitched and its name will be gibberish. But wait, finally, this name is a code. Remember that translator guy you can find in the red rooms in the main game and has a key on the screen? Use it here. The name translates to, the trio knows more than they say. Talking to the enemy, you will once again say some more gibberish, which translates to, ask for more. Beating this enemy, the trio will say that, well, that was a bug and wasn't supposed to happen. They will then give you a hint on how to recruit any enemy to your party in the main game. The final thing you can do is find the last playable character, Roma. You have to fight her as a boss and then you can play as her. However, but right before you beat her, she will mention Dagger 48, a dagger you can get in stage 3 of the main game, and this is how you beat her character story. The trio will say that this was unexpected, but a new friend to play with is always good. That is all you can do in the Crimson world here, however. But the natural thing to do now is use Roma to beat the game, I suppose, right? Using Roma in the main game to get to stage 3 of the main game, you can find Dagger 48 again. You will then be faced against the Traitor, a person missing an arm just like Meadow. He has a tough boss fight, but after you beat him, Roma will say that if he cares about her at all, he will give her the codes. You will then win and be able to access a new game mode called the Debug Room. In this room, accessed from the main menu, you can see that the title is once again gibberish that you need that code key for again. It says, lose the skin and reveal oneself. Whatever that means. In the Debug Room, you can access music and the Deep Red, a place that seemingly has nothing but endless battles. However, there is a few oddities in the Debug Room. There are 2 music tracks that are interestingly titled. One is called July 22nd, and it is the one you're hearing on screen right now. I don't know what the date implies at all. The other music track never used in the game is called 07222-022, and playing it on screen, it sounds like nothing. And no, I put this in a spectrogram already of the audio and it doesn't reveal anything, as you see on screen. I tried that already. What does that track mean? I have no idea what either of these tracks do. Once again, half the reason I'm posting this video is for your guys' help on some of these harder secrets. With all of that finally out of the way though, that is all the secrets not in the main game, at least as far as I can tell. There is only one thing left to do, and that is to complete the game as intended. Do what the first ending implied first. Use the snake scales and the temporal rupture to get past the 100% mark. Doing so, you will fight No Isoft? The game maker himself? This is some meta shit here, and I do have kind of a theory about that, but we will once again get to it after the summary. He will tell you that you're not supposed to be here. He will then fight you with the stipulation that you can only use 1 item per turn, as opposed to as many as you want. Talking to him will give you binary code, which took me way too long to translate. It says something along the lines of, "You skipped some percentages, didn't you?" Which literally is nothing, and I'm upset it took me like 40 minutes to translate his whole dialogue. Kill him and he will say, "What do you think you're doing? There's nothing for you past here." You will then fight a bunch of default creepy enemies while you get to the 140% if you aren't there already. Until you find her. What is this? It's a decently hard boss, and the title Her is cryptic. Who is her? You can talk to her and she will say, "Get out of her sight, as you're not even worth the sole of her shoe," which is a weird thing to say. But beating her, you will finally get Noir's dream diary, the one we skipped, the last one. Going back to the main menu, you will find the Noir dream diary, and entering it, you will find 8 different rooms. One is a shop with the long gilled fish. Another one is a dialogue between Ruggs and Esther and you with the number 808 over the door, which is that code we used in the Roots dream diary, which we went over already. One is a bunch of enemies you can steal money from. One is a very weird 3D view thing called the Red Room again. And there is a serotonin item which heals 2 HP. Grab that, by the way. One seemingly is a joke review left on the Steam page saying that the game makes no sense and gives the game 48 out of 100. Once again, there's that number. One is a room with all the models of the game shown on screen. And finally, there is this red door. It has Noir catching up to Trish and Ruggs. They say she's drunk, and Noir tells them drunkenly that the alley over there looks really cute. We should all check it out. When she does so, you will fight something unrecognizable. I have no idea what it is. But after you beat it, you will be transported to talking to a guy we've never seen before and has no model. It looks weird, but he will tell her that she is over there and you should go talk to her. Going there, you will see a girl you've never seen, but she has the same clothes as that thing we just fought in the alleyway. She will ask Noir what she is doing here. Noir will say, well, since she's here, she wants to talk about how things ended. This woman will say, no, she never wants to see her again. Noir will strangely then say, out of nowhere, she gets it now. She knows what the No-Skin Man wants. You then learn the secret behind the No-Skin Man's skin. Which, what was it? What did that even tell us? It seemingly said nothing. I believe this girl is quote-unquote her, the thing we've seen at 140% and all of that. But what's with the weird conversation, and what did that tell us about the skinless man? It seems like Noir and her dated, and she never wants to see her again, but after she learns that her doesn't want to see Noir again, it seemingly gave us the secret to the skin. But what's the secret? Anyway, the last thing to do in the game is to get to the end one more time. And now we have the No-Skin Man's secret. Play through the main game one more time. And when you get to the end where the No-Skin Man asks for his skin, there is now an option to give him his skin. He will ask you where the skin is, Noir. The screen will not display text for a few seconds and give you a new track. And then Noir will say what the secret is. The skinless man never had skin. The skinless man will say, good, she finally figured it out. Noir now seems to understand who the skinless man is. Which, side note, no the fuck we don't. The skinless man will then say, the time has come. You are now ready to finally kill the false god, so people can once again see things as they truly are. It will then flash several images of what I assume to be the entire population of the world, one of which I swear to God looks like a Dachi from Persona 4, and then it will flash to your friends. It seems everyone in the world, even your friends, are the false god. You have to fight all of them one more time in this final boss battle. Talking to each of them as you fight them one last time will give you some unique dialogue for each of them. The first one is Mary, who will say that Noir is her best friend. She always has been and always will be. Noir knows how much Mary cares about her friends. Kill Mary. Next is Ruggs, who will say that your friendship is important to him. He doesn't care how things turned out between Noir and him. Kill Ruggs. Next is Trish, who will say that she's surprised that you're doing this after everything she and Noir has been through together. She cares about you. Kill Trish. Esther will then just beg you for mercy and tell you to stop hurting her. Kill Esther. Finally, Nadine. She will ask what you have done. You killed Mary. How could you? Now kill Nadine too. Then, her. The nameless woman appears. Talk to her and she will tell you to stop. Wouldn't you like to hold her one last time? Kill her. Then the final phase of the fight, and in my opinion, one of, if not the most cryptic thing in the game, however also the most telling and the thing that gives the most answers at the same time. No one you know this time will be the false god, but the true face of the false god is Saturn devouring his son. What? This is an old painting made a long time ago, a real one. It is called the true face of the false god in this sense. This is super weird. What does this mean? Well, it makes it even more cryptic when you realize that the meaning of the original painting by Francisco Goya is also very cryptic, and it has many interpretations. Because of course it does. There are interpretations like greed or youth versus old age, but my favorite is the idea that famous scholar Fred Licht once said its meaning was. And that is, I quote, "Real bestiality is born of imagined bestiality." As in the myth, Saturn devours his children as he thinks that they are going to try and replace him. Meaning, it's all a misunderstanding. Either way though, after you kill Saturn devouring his son, you will kill the false god, and he will utter one last line, and of course it is extremely cryptic. Saturn devouring his child will say, "The dreamers lost in the moon. The boundary is reborn, cut. A single eye. The blade fingers and roses cover your face. The sea of blood flows and spawns monsters. Finish him off and get the ending sequence." After this, all of your friends are back, and they will tell you what they really feel about you, not the lie they told you during the battle. Mary says that you will never see her again, and you're now free from her manipulating you. Ruggs says that the only reason he stayed your friend is because he hoped someday you would get back together with him. Trish says that she always felt like everyone was beneath her because of how beautiful she is, but now she needs to figure out what truly matters. Esther will say she likes this new world. She used to only exist in this friend group to make everyone feel better. Now, she can worship the moon freely. Nadine will say she could never accept her sister. The truth is, she's always felt inferior to her sister. But now she needs to work on herself. Then, her is also there, and she will say, finally in this new world, Noir can accept the fact that things will never be the same between them. The new world will hurt everybody, but Noir will slowly heal. You will then see the moon goddess for who she really is. You. The moon goddess will give you one final speech, which I will read in full. Such insolence. But that's exactly why you managed to kill the false god. You were created in my image and likeness, and you are the only one who can see things as they truly are. You have finally created a world in your own image. Smile, for this is what you have always wanted. Suffer, for it will not be easy. Finally, that is the true end of No Skin. There is a lot of things this game could mean and be interpreted as, and upon first glance, it makes zero sense whatsoever. But let's think with our thinking caps for a second. There are a few questions that we can answer that I believe give us the gist of the story. And those 4 questions are, what is the skinless man, and what is the skinless man's skin that doesn't exist? 2. What or who is the false god? 3. What or who is the moon? And 4. Who is her? Number 1. What is the skinless man and what is his skin? Well, this took me a long time and a lot of deliberation with myself, but I want you to think of it like this. The skinless man is who everyone truly is. The skin in question is the lies that we tell ourselves. Or, in better words, the skin is the facade of the human. Like a real skin, it's an outer layer used for protection. When you comfort her, that is when Noir realizes the truth. There never was any skin. Or in other words, the skin is not real. The skin you put on is not who you truly are. That goes in tandem with point 2. What is the false god? Well, I believe the false god is the world of peace we have from lying to ourselves and others. The false god gives us peace, but only through lying to ourselves and denying ourselves who humans really are, and what the world is built on. And the world is built on lies, and it is peaceful for it most of the time. However, in the end, the world is like Saturn devouring his sun. Violence will eventually happen and destroy the world through misunderstandings because of lies. The lies we tell ourselves and others in search of peace. Worshipping the false god means you deny your true feelings, in short. 3. What is the moon? The moon is, simply put, at least in my opinion, the truth. Originally, before lies and the false god, the moon was close to Earth. Everyone was truthful, even if life was worse off. The world was very close to truth. However, as the angel said, one day the moon rose back up. Humans learned how to lie, obscuring the truth. The world got further from the moon. Killing the false god at the end means accepting the truth, that you will never be with her again. Perhaps a painful truth about Noir's past, about like maybe a relationship or whoever. A thing Noir tells herself that maybe one day she'll get back together with me or something like that. A sweet lie that Noir knows in the end will never help her heal and is just something to cope. Everyone has felt that kind of lie before. Accepting the truth of things, even if it hurts you, will eventually let you heal. There's also this weird thing about alcohol in this game. It comes up a lot. It poisons you and is brought up literally like every 10 minutes, and that's way too much to be a coincidence. I believe that the game is saying alcohol either helps obscure the truth, or maybe the exact inverse in some cases, helps show it, depending on your interpretation. The moon being just Noir in the end, you, is just showing that within yourself, the real truth lies. I believe anyone that saw the moon would just see themselves, because you have to look inward to see it. But that's about it for what I know. There are several things that do not make sense to me that I want to talk about, though. Who are the Crimson Dancers? What is with the red triangle? What is the meaning of the puddle shaped like a guitar, the rhino carcass, and the blood red painting, and more importantly, the Origin du Monde? These questions I have no answers to, and there's a very good possibility I have missed things in this game. But I've played it for a total of about 26 hours now, and just figured out what I think it means. So I'm sure if I really dig deeper, there may be a few things I have missed. But I want you all to find that out too. If you find something, tell me in the comments, because I really am invested and I want to see what this game means fully. And I couldn't get it from the creator on Twitter, so I want to ask what you guys think it means. But yeah, there are several other secrets I'm sure I have not found. And that's where you all come in. Tell me your thoughts on this game in the comments, as I believe it is an amazing game with an amazing story for those who want to look deep enough into it, and a huge rabbit hole. I want to hear the secrets you found too, and how you found them. please show this guy and this game some love as well, because this is fantastic and I believe a masterpiece nearly on the level of Fear and Hunger that I cannot believe that almost no one has played. But most importantly, I want to thank all of you for watching as far as you have, because this video was really hard to make, and I hope you enjoyed it. I love every single one of you that have seen this video and gotten this far, and I will see you all next time. Bye.